Thunder rumbled in the distance, a warning of the storm ahead. The wind carried whispers of unseen spirits, sending chills down the spine of the lone traveler pushing forward against the biting cold. His once proud robes were reduced to rags, his royal sandals replaced with battered soles caked in mud. Prince Ifani, heir to the great Yuzo kingdom, no longer resembled the future ruler of a mighty land. He was a man broken, a beggar both in appearance and spirit. For 6 grueling months, he had wandered from village to village, city to city, searching. Not for wealth, not for allies, but for something far rarer, a heart untainted by greed and ambition. His father's decree rang in his ears, "A throne without love is a cage, my son. But love alone is not enough. My health wanes, and the kingdom cannot wait. You must find a woman with a heart pure enough to lead beside you, one who will not only be your queen but the mother of the next heir. Without a successor, our lineage risks fading, and the throne falling into the hands of those unworthy. Time is not on your side, act swiftly, or the kingdom will suffer." And so, he had tested many wealthy maidens who feigned sweetness until they learned of his disguise. Noble daughters who turned away in disgust when he reached out for scraps. Even village girls who hesitated, expecting something in return. Time and time again, he was met with disappointment. His hope dwindled, his faith in humanity nearly extinguished. Then, he reached Umuahia. The last village on his path, the final thread of his fraying resolve. His body was weary, his spirit even more so. 6 months of endless rejection, of witnessing selfishness and greed, had drained the hope from his heart. He had sworn to his father that he would find a worthy bride, but what was the use if none existed? If Umuahia failed him as the others had, he would return to the palace alone, admitting defeat. The kingdom would suffer the consequences, but he had no strength left to continue. This was it, the last chance before he surrendered to fate. Umuahia was a village of sharp minds and even sharper tongues. The women were known for their cunning, their ability to weave words like baskets, tight, intricate, and designed to trap the unsuspecting. Men seeking wives treaded carefully, for many had been ensnared by beauty that masked ambition. A man without wealth had no value, a man without status was invisible. Prince Ifani knew this. He had heard of Umuahia's reputation long before his journey led him there. It was a place where kindness was measured in what it could return, where generosity was often a performance for gain. If there was anywhere his search was doomed to fail, it was here. And yet, it was the last name on his list, the final trial before he abandoned his quest altogether. If love could not be found in Umuahia, perhaps it did not exist at all. Adiz was not born into wealth, nor did she crave it. She was the daughter of Neka, a widow who struggled to raise her alone after Adiz's father died in a tragic accident. Life had never been kind to them, but through each hardship, Adiz remained hopeful. From a young age, Adiz bore burdens far heavier than any child should. When her father died in a tragic accident, the fragile balance of their home shattered. With no brothers or uncles to take charge, Adiz became the man of the house before she was even old enough to understand the weight of responsibility. She wove baskets and mats, her fingers nimble and skilled, trading them in the marketplace for meager earnings. With every coin she earned, she stretched their survival, ensuring her mother had enough to eat, that their small hut did not crumble around them. She mended roofs, carried heavy water pots, and endured the jeers of those who saw her labor as unbecoming of a girl. But her trials were not only physical. Adiz had known heartbreak, trust betrayed, love promised and then withdrawn when suitors realized she had no dowry, no powerful family to offer. She had loved deeply once, only to watch the man she cared for choose a wealthier woman, leaving her with nothing but whispered apologies. Yet, despite it all, she never hesitated to share. The village knew her as the girl who would give away her last morsel if she thought another needed it more. She had lost much, But she refused to let the world take her kindness. Yet, kindness was often met with scorn. "Why waste food on those who cannot repay you?" they asked. "You will be left with nothing," her mother warned. But Adi's heart was stubborn in its goodness. On a blistering afternoon, Ifani, now unrecognizable in his tattered garb, staggered into Umuahia's market square. He had been careful, observing the village from the shadows for days, trying to understand its people before making his move. His stomach twisted in hunger, his throat parched, but experience had taught him that desperation made men vulnerable. He needed to test Umuahia, just as he had tested the others. So, he played his part, reaching out toward the nearest vendor, a man selling roasted yams. "Please, just a small piece," he rasped. The vendor scoffed. "Do I look like a charity? Beg elsewhere." A woman, adorned in bright fabrics and gold rings, sneered at him. "Disgusting! Keep walking." Ifani clenched his fists. His search had been futile. No village had proven worthy. Perhaps the gods mocked him. Perhaps the kingdom was doomed to have a queen with a heart of stone. Then, just as he was about to turn away, his plan seemingly confirming Umuahia's reputation, a sound caught him off guard. Not the jeers, not the whispers of amusement, but something unexpected: gentleness. "Here, take this." He looked up to see a young woman offering him roasted yam and a bowl of water. She smiled, genuinely, without expectation. "Eat, rest," she urged. "It is a cruel thing to be hungry." "You do not even know me," he whispered. "Kindness needs no reason," she replied. The prince hesitated. Was this another trick? Another well-rehearsed act? He studied her face, searching for calculation, for a sign that she had recognized him, but there was none. Only sincerity. As he took the food, something stirred deep within him, something long buried beneath doubt and exhaustion: hope. Ifani ate the roasted yam slowly, savoring each bite as if it were a feast. The water she offered was cool and refreshing, a balm to his parched throat. He watched her carefully, searching for any hint of ulterior motive, but Adi's eyes remained soft, her smile genuine. She didn't ask for his name, didn't pry into his past, and didn't linger for gratitude. Instead, she returned to her stall, where she continued weaving baskets with deft hands. The prince lingered in the market square, his mind racing. Could this be the one? The woman with a heart untainted by greed? He had been deceived before, and the sting of betrayal still lingered. But something about Adi's felt different. Her kindness was effortless, her generosity uncalculated. He decided to test her further, to see if her heart was as pure as it seemed. Over the next few days, Ifani returned to the market, each time in a more pitiful state than the last. He feigned illness, injury, and despair, watching how Adi's responded. Each time, she offered him food, water, and a kind word. She never asked for anything in return, never hinted at expecting payment or favor. Her compassion was unwavering, even when others mocked her for wasting resources on a beggar. But the prince's presence in the village did not go unnoticed. Umuahia was a place of sharp eyes and sharper tongues, and rumors began to spread. Who was this stranger who lingered in the shadows? Why did Adi's, of all people, show him such kindness? Some whispered that he was a thief, others a spy. A few even speculated that he was a spirit sent to test the village's morality. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ifani approached Adi's hut. He had made up his mind. He would reveal his true identity and ask for her hand in marriage. But as he neared the small, crumbling structure, he heard raised voices. "You foolish girl." It was Adi's mother, Neka. "How many times must I tell you? You cannot save everyone. You give, and what do you have to show for it? Nothing. you will end up alone, with nothing but the clothes on your back." Efani paused, hidden in the shadows, listening. "I know, Mama," Adiz replied, her voice steady but tinged with sadness. "But I cannot turn away from someone in need. It's not in my nature." "And what of your own needs? Your own future? Who will care for you when I am gone?" Adiz did not respond, and the prince's heart ached for her. He stepped forward, intending to intervene, but before he could, a figure emerged from the darkness, a tall, broad-shouldered man with a scar running down his cheek. Efani recognized him instantly, Chief Okoro, a powerful and ruthless trader who had long sought to control Umwahia's market. "Adiz," Chief Okoro said, his voice smooth but menacing. "I hear you've been feeding a beggar. A stranger. Do you not know the dangers of inviting trouble into our village?" Adiz stood her ground, though her hands trembled. "He is no trouble, Chief Okoro. He is hungry, and I have food to spare. Is that not the way of our ancestors? To care for those in need?" Chief Okoro's eyes narrowed. "Your ancestors also knew the value of loyalty. This village thrives because we look out for our own. Outsiders bring nothing but chaos. If you continue to defy me, Adiz, you will regret it." Efani's blood boiled. He stepped out of the shadows, his voice firm. "She has done nothing wrong. If anyone brings chaos to this village, it is you." Chief Okoro turned, his eyes widening in surprise before narrowing in anger. "And who are you to speak to me like this? A beggar? A fool?" "I am no beggar," Efani said, standing tall. "I am Prince Efani, heir to the Yuzo kingdom. And I have seen the true heart of this village, its cruelty, its greed, and its rare kindness. Adiz is the only one among you who deserves to be called noble." The revelation sent shockwaves through the small gathering. Chief Okoro's face turned pale, then red with fury. "You lie. The prince would never come here in such a state." But Adiz stepped forward, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and disbelief. "Is it true? Are you really the prince?" Efani nodded, his gaze softening as he looked at her. "Yes. And I have searched far and wide for someone like you, a woman with a heart pure enough to rule beside me. Will you be my queen?" Before Adiz could respond, Chief Okoro let out a roar of anger. "This is an outrage. You think you can waltz into my village, take one of our own, and leave? I will not allow it." He signaled to his men, who emerged from the shadows, armed with machetes, "And me," he whispered. But Adiz shook her head. "No. This is my fight too." The confrontation was swift and brutal. Efani, though weakened from his journey, fought with the skill of a warrior. Adiz, though unarmed, used her wits and agility to outmaneuver her attackers. Together, they managed to hold their own until the villagers, inspired by Adiz's bravery, joined the fight. Chief Okoro and his men were driven out of the village, their reign of terror finally ended. As the dust settled, Efani turned to Adiz, his heart swelling with admiration. "You are more than I ever hoped for," he said. "Will you come with me? Will you be my queen?" Adiz looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. "I will," she said. "But not because you are a prince. Because you saw me for who I am, and because I believe in the future we can build together." The villagers cheered as the couple embraced, their joy a stark contrast to the storm that had threatened to tear them apart. But as Efani and Adiz prepared to leave for the Yuzo kingdom, a new challenge emerged, one that would test their love and their resolve in ways they could never have imagined. For deep in the forest, a shadow stirred. Chief Okoro had not been defeated, he had only retreated. And he was not alone. He had made a pact with a powerful sorcerer, one who promised him revenge in exchange for a single favor, the heart of the prince's bride. The storm was far from over.